Chapter 4, The Monster. Time to wake up, Talmag's father called from the hall. We have an appointment with the monster. Talmag stretched in his bedroom and squinted at the clock. It was 6 in the morning on the first Saturday of summer. It was time to go fishing for the monster, something he had been doing with his dad every summer for as long as he could remember. His door opened. Dad tossed a snack bar onto his bed. Breakfast. Let's go. After Talmag got dressed, he headed out back. Where's Wallamaloo? Oh, no, Miss Kergozine. He headed out back, where Wallamaloo Lake awaited them. Dad was on the dock, loading the old motorboat. Conditions are perfect. Today is the day. I can just feel it, Talmag finished. He smiled. His dad always said that. Suddenly, Dad's face turned serious. Today is the day, Talmag. He brought his special fishing rod on board. It was the deep sea fishing kind, especially meant for monster. 20 years ago, I swore I'd get him, and I will. He gave the barrel of the rod a pat. Talmag took his place on the rear bench. You think we're finally going to catch him? He surveyed the dark, murky water around him. I have to. Dad pushed the boat away from the dock. Talmag had never seen his dad look more determined to catch the mysterious fish. Legend had it that the monster was big enough to eat a dog. It could jump 50 feet out of water and overturn a boat. The stories were so embedded in everyone's mind that no kid dared swim in the lake without saying a prayer before jumping in. None of the stories bothered Talmag or his father. He's a beast, all right, Talmag's dad had once said, but he is no killer. When I had him on the line, I stared him right in the eye, and all I saw was fear. According to his father, that fish had bent his pole like a paperclip and nearly yanked him out of the boat before the line broke. All around town, people knew of the story. To believers, his father was sort of famous for being the only person to see and hook the monster. We'll get him, Dad, Talmag said with equal determination. But deep inside, catching the monster didn't matter much to Talmag. He just loved fishing with his dad. There was something special about being on the lake with his father before most of the town even woke up. Talmag could eat all the junk food he wanted, listen to good music on their old radio, and just sit without a care in the world. Dad did most of the real work when it came to the fishing part. That sounds like fun. Mrs. Kergozine goes fishing with the boys. And that's kind of what I like to do too. Just be there and take pictures, and I don't bait the fish, the hook, with worms, and I don't touch the fish. But I do like being there for the fun. Dad started the motor and switched on the radio. The oldies station was playing the Beatles. Perfect, Dad grinned. Talmag, the weather's hot. The monster loves warm water. We couldn't have asked for better conditions. They motored out to the spot where Wallamaloo River dumped into the lake. He likes the action of the water, Dad explained, keeping the food marching right into his big mouth. Once Dad cut off the motor, he got his line ready. Already there were a few boats out trolling for their own catch of the day. Talmag recognized Leonard and his son, Paolo's fancy motorboat. Several hundred yards away, Dad tipped his fishing hat in Leonard's direction. Leonard tipped his hat in return. That Leonard is going to eat my bait, Dad said under his breath, when the monster's on my dinner plate tonight. Talmag held back a laugh. Dad always called his old high school classmate that Leonard, even though everyone else just called him Leo. Leonard was known for being the best sports fisherman around. Last year, he and his son caught the biggest muskie that the state had ever seen. But to Talmag's father, the 58-pound fish they hooked still wasn't the monster. All day, Dad cast and recast his line, but as the hours went by, the fun Talmog had hoped they would have wasn't so fun after all. Dad had hardly said a word. It was like he pinned all his hopes on catching the fish that very morning. To make matters worse, they didn't get a nibble from anything at all, which was kind of unusual. Talmog wiped the sweat from his brow. Maybe it was too warm to fish. He glanced at his watch. It was past noon. Usually they quit for lunch and waited until dusk to head out again. Some of the other boats were already heading back, including Leonard's. "Bryan," Leonard called to Talmog's father as they coasted by with the engine rumbling. "Just a tip. It's the radio. You're chasing away the monster with that music." "You fish your way," Dad called, "and I'll fish mine." Just then, something tugged on Dad's line. Hard. Dad held it fast and started reeling. "See," he said to Leonard, his pole jerked again. "I got a big one. Help me, Talmage." Talmage stood up. "What should I do?" The pole jerked forward once more. Leonard stopped his boat. "You need me, Bryan?" "We've got this." Dad reeled the line as quickly as he could. "Just hold on to my waist, Talmage." He bent the pole back to get some power over the fish. "He feels huge, bigger than I remember." Talmage grabbed onto his father and planted his feet in the decking. "He's putting up a good fight." Dad bent the pole back again. Sure enough, whatever Dad had was rising to the surface. It was big, a dark gray mass about 3 feet wide coming toward the boat. Talmage's eyes widened. What was it? Dad tugged and reeled, tugged and reeled. Talmage dug in with his heels. "On 1, 2, 3, pull!" Talmage pulled on his dad as hard as he could. He lost his footing and his dad landed on him. Something big came out of the water. The monster, Talmage thought. Bang! A giant tire hit the side of the boat before sinking under with a splash. Talmage heard tons of laughter from Leonard's boat. His face flushed red. His father scrambled to his feet and cut the line with his pocket knife. Talmage sat up, rubbing his back. That was no monster. "Stop laughing," Leonard warned. "It's not funny." But Talmage could tell that Leonard was holding back his own chuckle. The man revved the boat to a roar. "We'll see you later, Bryan." With that, they sped off. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm going to do a few more. Talmage's dad dropped his pole and took off his hat. He chucked the hat to the deck. Talmage stared at the hat. Then he looked at his father. "You okay?" Dad took a few seconds to compose himself. "Yeah." He looked out at the horizon and finally picked up the hat. "We're heading home." He yanked on the motor pole. That evening, Dad didn't say much. He sat in the living room in his tattered wingback chair, staring at the empty fireplace like it was a TV set. Talmage tried to cheer him up. "Come on, Dad. It was Leonard's loud and obnoxious boat that ran Monster off. We'll get him tonight. I just know it." His father didn't say anything. Talmage began to worry. He'd never seen him this down over fishing. "Dad?" "Talmage," his father began, "you know my story about the monster, right?" "You said it was the best day of your life," Talmage recalled. "No one had ever done what you had. Hooked the monster." "Right," Dad said. "It was the best day of my life. I had the right weather, the right tackle, the right fishing spot. I had taken Grandpa's boat out all by myself." Talmage nodded, remembering the details of the story. "But I never told you that that day was also my worst. Grandpa didn't believe me when I told him I had hooked the monster." Uh-oh, there they are, bringing in the big tire. Kind of embarrassing when they thought it was really the monster. Talmage frowned. His own dad hadn't believed him? And I saw the way Leonard and Paola looked at us today, and it wasn't just me they were laughing at. It was us. Who cares, Talmage said. We're catching the monster. Dad, you had him, and I believe you. Dad's face grew stern. Talmage, it's over. Trying to catch a fish I haven't seen in 20 years is impossible. He shook his head. Impossible. Now I sound like Dad. Talmage stared at his father. He didn't like to see him act this way. Funny thing is, Dad continued, when I had the monster on the line, the radio was playing Grandpa's favorite song. I remember wishing so badly that he could have been there with me. What a moment we would have had. He began to sing. You put the hours in and the day is done. It's quitting time, but when it comes to getting what you want, from the moon to the sun, you never give up. You never give in. Grandpa wasn't a believer in the monster like some of the town folk here, but to his credit, he was a big believer in me. He taught me to never give up in life, to go after what I wanted. Dad got up from the chair. And I wanted that fish, but it's time to stop. I'm not going to let you follow in my footsteps. Not this way, he sighed. I give up. He ruffled Talmage's hair and headed to his bedroom. Night, son. Oh, Mrs. Karagosian doesn't want him to give up.